Picture a cold morning in the Japanese highlands. Mist creeps between pine trees, dew clings to leaves, and a young boy stands alone in the clearing. His breath is visible in the air, his hands clenched around a crude wooden sword. He is not playing. He is preparing for life, for death, for something much deeper than either. This boy would become Miyamoto Musashi, but at this moment he is just a beginning. The first step is the hardest. All great journeys begin with a decision often small and private to change. We mythologize beginnings heroes born with swords in their hands, or wisdom pouring from their mouths. But the truth is, every master was once a beginner. Musashi's rise to mastery did not begin in a dojo. It began in dirt, in silence, in the rugged corners of a Japan at war with itself. To begin, you must abandon the illusion that you are not ready. Modern applications stop waiting for permission. In today's world, many people delay their journey because they wait for perfect timing, better circumstances, or more confidence. But as Musashi shows the way, begins the moment you decide it must. The battlefield doesn't wait. Neither does life. Do not seek perfection in the beginning. Seek motion. Discipline is a muscle. Discipline is not a talent. It is not born. It is built. And it is built by doing, not dreaming. For Musashi, daily training wasn't optional. It was the essence of life. He did not separate the practice of swordsmanship from the practice of existence. To him, every moment was training. We must see discipline the same way, not a punishment or burden, but a form of devotion to our best selves. At age 13, Musashi fought his first duel. His opponent was a seasoned samurai, a man twice his size, and likely 3 times his experience. Yet it was the boy who walked away. What separates those who act from those who retreat is not skill. It is the ability to move forward despite fear. What is fear? Fear is a teacher, a messenger, but never a master, unless you let it be. Musashi understood this early. He knew that fear is not to be eradicated but acknowledged and moved through. When he stepped into his first duel, he must have been terrified. But he stepped anyway. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. To overcome fear, one must act. Not think, not analyze, not escape, but act. Practical lessons in overcoming fear. Deliberate exposure. Place yourself in discomfort regularly. Visualize worst-case scenarios. Most fears lose power when examined. Detach from outcome. Fear stems from clinging to a result. Let go. Musashi did not fight to win. He fought because it was the way. When you make the process more important than the result, fear vanishes. Musashi refused status. He avoided wealth. He rejected fame. Not because he didn't earn it, but because he saw the danger in it. He lived as a ronin, a masterless samurai, not because he had no offers, but because he chose detachment over dependence. The moment you attach your peace to anything external, you give away your power. The illusion of control. People today are drowning in attachment. To likes on a post, to a job title, to how others perceive them. Musashi lived with almost nothing. No home, no possessions, no need for validation, and he was free. You are not your things. You are not your image. Do not pursue the taste of good food. Do not sleep on luxurious bedding. Do not indulge in pleasure for its own sake. This is not a rejection of joy, but a recognition that the pursuit of comfort creates weakness. Applying detachment today. Unfollow noise, curate your digital environment. Declutter your life. If it doesn't serve growth, let it go. Practice emotional restraint. You don't need to react to everything. When you can walk away from anything, you become invincible. Musashi's true opponent was never another swordsman. It was his own ego, his own impatience, his own laziness. The untrained mind creates more danger than the sharpest blade. Most people lose not because of external circumstances, but because of internal weakness. Self-mastery is the ultimate victory. You can't control life, but you can control how you meet it. Musashi knew that every duel, every conflict, every moment was a mirror. If you are anxious, the world will reflect that. If you are disciplined, the world bends to your rhythm. Fixation is the way to death. Fluidity is the way to life. The internal enemy's hesitation kills action. Doubt destroys confidence. Anger clouds judgment. To master these, one must become a student of their own psychology. Keep a journal. Sit in silence. Watch yourself. The battle is won not by fighting the world, but by conquering the parts of yourself that fear it. You can only fight the way you practice. This was Musashi's mantra. It applies to war, to art, to love, to life. Practice is not repetition, it is transformation. Each stroke of the brush, each swing of the sword, each word written. These are not tasks, but mirrors. They show you who you are. Practice as devotion for Musashi training wasn't about getting better at something. It was a spiritual path, a sacred rhythm, a daily death and rebirth. He trained to know himself. We must do the same. Make everything practice. Conversations become practice in presence. Work becomes practice in focus. Exercise becomes practice in discomfort. The way is in training. It's not about showing up when you feel inspired. It's about showing up always, every day, no exceptions. Building your own path of practice. Create rituals. Morning routines. Writing schedules, silent periods. Measure depth, not time. 10 minutes of deep effort is more than 2 hours of distraction. Revere boredom. Mastery often begins when novelty ends. The most disciplined people are not the most motivated. They are simply committed to their path regardless of mood. At the heart of Musashi's worldview is a profound statement. From one thing, know 10,000 things. It means that by truly mastering one discipline, you gain insight into everything else. The depth principle. In the modern world, people are taught to chase breadth. More knowledge, more skills, more certifications. But Musashi knew something truer. Depth in one thing reveals the nature of all things. When you master one art, calligraphy, martial arts, music, you internalize the laws of rhythm, resistance, balance, patience, and flow. These laws repeat across all disciplines. A swordsman learns timing and distance. A painter learns detail and emptiness. A writer learns structure and silence. They are the same lessons in different languages. Mastery over multitasking. Today's world praises the multitasker. But mastery doesn't come from scattering your focus. It comes from going deeper than most are willing. The way is in one thing done fully, not many things done half-heartedly. Musashi didn't master 10 arts. He mastered the art of mastery. Application. Choose one discipline and go deep. Stick with the discomfort of plateau. Learn what that art teaches about life itself. When you master the way in one field, you begin to see the patterns of life in everything. Water is formless, yet it shapes mountains. It cannot be grasped, yet it carves through stone. Musashi's water book teaches us that adaptability is strength, not rigidity. You should not have a favorite weapon or any favorite anything. This is not a statement against loyalty, but against inflexibility. Why rigidity fails. In battle, a fighter who only knows one move will lose. In life, a person who can only think one way will break when the world changes. Musashi saw adaptability as the highest skill. The warrior who can adjust is the one who survives. Water adapts, fire consumes, steel breaks, be water. Situational awareness in practice. Musashi taught his students not just how to fight, but when to shift stance, how to read an opponent's mind, and when to walk away. He wasn't just teaching swordplay, he was teaching how to read reality and respond accordingly. Today, we face unexpected changes constantly. The economy crashes, a loved one leaves, a dream job vanishes. Only those who can adapt, change, plan, pivot mindsets thrive. Application, develop a growth mindset, mistakes. Arcs data. Practice non-attachment to plans. Train for flexibility, not just strength. The rigid sword breaks. The adaptable one bends and endures. Musashi was not just a fighter, he was a strategist. To him, every movement had intention. Every step was a calculation. He didn't just defeat opponents with skill, he beat them before the fight began. Think of what is right and true. Learn to see everything accurately. What is strategy? Strategy is conscious direction of energy. Where others live by impulse, the strategist lives by purpose. Where others rush into conflict, the strategist shapes the battlefield. Musashi's duels weren't just victories, they were masterclasses in positioning, patience, and deception. He arrived late to rile his opponent. He carved a longer sword to counter a longer blade. He attacked in the exact moment his opponent hesitated. Strategy isn't manipulation. It is mental clarity plus tactical alignment. The strategic mind in modern life. In our age, strategy is essential, whether you're launching a business, navigating a relationship, or planning your life path. You must think long-term, understand leverage, and move intentionally. The untrained person reacts. The strategist creates. Application. Write a weekly battle plan, what matters, what doesn't. Learn to anticipate patterns in people and systems. Study chess Go or war history to sharpen foresight. Strategy is not just preparation, it's a way of living deliberately. To forge steel, you must pass it through fire. To forge a human being, you must pass them through hardship. Musashi didn't avoid pain. He sought it, welcomed it, transformed through it. His life was filled with hunger, isolation, and danger, but it was precisely these fires that forged his unshakable spirit. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain, but no path avoids the mountain's harsh terrain. Why we avoid struggle. In a world of convenience, we've been trained to flinch from pain. Cold turn up the heat. Sad open TikTok. Board swipe. But the truth is this, if you avoid struggle, you avoid growth. Discomfort is the forge. Every master went through it. Musashi's fire-fought battles as a teenager. Slept outside in mountains. Lived without wealth, rank, or comfort. Lost people, bled often, starved sometimes, but never broke. Why? Because he had purpose. Struggle without purpose breaks you. Struggle with purpose builds you. Application: take cold showers. Do hard workouts. Sit in silence. Speak the truth when it's hard. Go without comfort just to prove you can. Do not flinch from fire. Walk into it with open eyes. Let it temper you. Musashi taught that you cannot win if you only know yourself. You must know the opponent, the environment, the context. To know 10,000 things, observe one thing deeply. To know one thing deeply, observe 10,000 things lightly. This paradox was the core of his Win book, Why You Must Study Others. Musashi studied every school of martial arts, not to imitate them, but to understand their weaknesses. In doing so, he gained strategic advantage. If you know how people think, how they panic, how they bluff, you can anticipate, you can flow, you can win without conflict. Understanding modern opponents. In modern life, your opponents aren't enemies. They're challenges, a negotiation partner, a competitor in business, a boss in a toxic workplace, a version of yourself filled with excuses. To master them, you must understand their patterns, their fears, and their blind spots. This is empathy with edge. Application: study psychology, persuasion, and body language. Observe without judgment. Reflect on how people react, not just what they say. To win the inner and outer game, you must know both the sword and the wind around it. What is the void? To Musashi, it was not emptiness in the Western sense, not nihilism or absence, but the ultimate space of presence, intuition, and formless awareness. In the void is virtue and no evil. Wisdom has existence, principle has existence, the way has existence, spirit is nothingness. This was not poetry. It was a roadmap to a state beyond fear, beyond thought, beyond the self. The zone of mastery. Athletes call it the zone. Artists call it flow. Musashi called it void, the final book in his Go-Rin no-Sho book of 5 rings. This was where training disappeared and instinct took over, where ego dissolved and only pure action remained. When you enter the void, you do not hesitate, do not plan, do not fear. You simply act, and every action is correct. Getting to the void. To access this state, you must train relentlessly until you no longer need to think. Musashi didn't think about swordplay in battle. He became the blade. The lesson: thinking is useful in training, but thinking is dangerous in battle. Overthinking paralyzes action. True mastery is unconscious competence. Application in modern life, in business. The best decisions come not from hesitation, but from trusted instinct honed by experience. In creativity, write, paint, create from silence, not analysis. In daily life, let go of needing to control. Observe. Act. To enter the void is to live without resistance. It is pure presence, pure readiness. Few teachings of Musashi are as provocative and liberating as this. You should accept death in your heart every day. At first glance, this sounds grim, but it is the opposite. It is freedom. When you accept death, nothing can be taken from you. When you accept loss, nothing can own you. Death as teacher Musashi lived, knowing every duel could be his last. This sharpened his focus, clarified his values, and stripped away all illusion. Most people avoid thinking about death. They distract themselves. But avoidance breeds fear, and fear weakens will. Memento mori in action. In Stoicism, this practice is called memento mori. Remember, you must die. Musashi didn't fear death. He used it. He asked, if I were to die today, would I be at peace? If this were my final act, would it be worthy? He lived as if every moment mattered because it did. Application. Begin each day with reflection on impermanence. Use death as a filter for decisions. Let it guide you away from triviality toward truth. Death clarifies life. Accepting it is not morbid. It is liberating. The most legendary moment in Musashi's life is the duel with Sasaki Kojiro in 1612. This wasn't just a sword fight. It was a case study in psychological warfare, strategic timing, and total presence. Kojiro was no ordinary opponent. He was one of the most feared swordsmen of his time. Musashi didn't win with superior strength. He won with strategy. The setup. The duel was scheduled at Ganryu Island. Musashi showed up hours late, carved a wooden sword from a boat oar, wore his opponent's patience thin with delay. By the time he stepped onto the beach, Kojiro was furious, emotional, ungrounded. Musashi was calm. Perceive that which cannot be seen. Musashi defeated Kojiro before the first strike. The strike. With a single blow perfectly timed, precisely aimed, Musashi ended the duel. Not just with force, with foresight. He knew the terrain. He predicted the move. He crafted the ending before it began. Lessons from the dual mind over emotion. Kojiro lost because he let emotion control him. Preparation beats talent. Musashi prepared not just his weapon, but the psychological environment. Win before the battle. You don't win in the fight, you win in the setup. Musashi didn't just swing a sword. He commanded the moment. So must you? A Ronin is a masterless samurai. But to Musashi, this wasn't a dishonor. It was freedom. He chose to live without a lord, not because he lacked offers, but because he refused to be owned. This decision shaped his entire life and philosophy. What it means to be a Ronin. To be a Ronin is to walk alone, think independently, act without needing permission. In Musashi's world, most warriors aligned themselves with powerful lords. It offered safety, honor, and stability. But it also meant obedience sometimes to values that were not your own. Musashi wanted truth, not comfort. He chose the harder path. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. The price of freedom. He had no wealth, no allies, no guarantees. But he had mastery, and that made him more powerful than those who sat in castles. Modern application today. You don't need to become a swordsman to be a Ronin. You simply must stop depending on others for validation. Take full ownership of your path. Learn to lead yourself. Independence is costly, but so is obedience to a life that isn't yours. Musashi teaches us walk alone, not because you must, but because you can. Before his death, Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings, one of the most enduring manuals on strategy and self-mastery in history. It wasn't about technique alone. It was about philosophy in motion. Each ring is an element: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. Each one represents a layer of understanding in the journey of mastery. Let's break them down. Earth, the foundation. This is the study of basics. Form, footing, balance, discipline. Without this, all else fails. Modern application: master your morning, your mindset, your body, your space. Water, adaptability, fluid, changing, receptive. The lesson: do not resist change, flow with it. Modern application: be mentally agile, pivot quickly, adjust without ego. Fire, aggression, and intensity. Fire is the burst, the strike. The lesson: act with full conviction when it's time. Modern application: when the time is right, go all in. Speak clearly, move decisively. Wind, understanding others. The wind studies all schools, all styles. The lesson: know your opponent, know the world. Modern application: read people. Learn from all sources. Build awareness beyond yourself. Void the unknown, the final ring. No technique, no plan, only presence. The lesson: live fully in the moment. Trust instinct. Transcend fear. Modern application: meditate. Practice stillness. Let go of control. Trust yourself. The 5 rings are not separate. They are a progression. Earth stabilizes. Water flows. Fire strikes. Wind perceives. Void surrenders. Master them, and you master more than combat. You master life itself. In the final days of his life, Musashi retired to a cave called Reigando. There, with death approaching, he wrote his final testament, Dokkōdō, the way of walking alone. 21 principles. Sparse, austere, direct. Not written for warriors. Written for the soul. This was his final blade. Not made of steel, but of wisdom. The essence of Dokkōdō. The Dokkōdō is not a list of rules. It is a psychological blueprint for detachment, independence, and inner power. Here are a few key principles and their modern interpretations. Accept everything just the way it is. This is radical acceptance. Life happens. Reality cannot be negotiated, only embraced. Application: stop arguing with circumstances. Use them. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Pleasure pursued for escape weakens resolve. Musashi understood that the strongest pleasures are the byproduct of effort and meaning, not indulgence. Application: delay gratification. Seek joy and purpose. Do not depend on a partial feeling. Do not build your life on emotional whims. Emotions pass. Purpose endures. Application: build habits and decisions on values, not moods. Do not regret what you have done. Regret is wasted energy. Learn, forgive, move. Application: use mistakes as training. Don't carry them as weights. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Even in belief, Musashi emphasizes self-reliance. Faith is fine. Dependency is weakness. Application: hope, but build your own rescue. Each principle is a sword. Carve them into your actions, not just your thoughts. Musashi fought over 60 duels and never lost. But his greatest opponent was always the same. Fear, emotion, the undisciplined mind. He trained himself to be calm under chaos. Not because the world was peaceful, but because his mind was. Mental toughness. See emotional control. It's not about not feeling. It's about not being controlled by feeling. Musashi never let fear stop him from acting. He once said, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." This includes the mental path. How to train mental resilience today. Voluntary discomfort. Practice fasting, silence, early rising. Why? To teach your mind, I do not need ease to act. Stillness practices. Meditation, breath control, cold exposure. These harden the nervous system. They train poise. Reframe struggle. Musashi saw challenges as invitations to grow. When things get hard, say, "This is the training." Journal like a warrior. Write daily reflections. Track fear patterns, hesitations, reactions. Objective: know thy enemy yourself. Do one hard thing daily. Call someone you're avoiding. Finish a project you're resisting. Take a cold shower. The key is training through fire. Mental toughness isn't inherited. It's built like armor, forged through discipline and used when needed most. The way is in training. These 5 words summarize Musashi's entire philosophy. Not just training as preparation, but training as a lifestyle, a ritual, a religion. Even when you are feeling idle, train. Even when you are at rest, sharpen the spirit. This is what modern life has forgotten. The ritualization of practice. Musashi trained not just in swordsmanship. He painted, he sculpted, he wrote, he walked, he observed. Every action became a form of spiritual repetition. The practice wasn't about improving, it was about alignment, presence, refinement. How to train. Daily without a sword. Build a warrior's morning ritual. Wake early, no screen. Move, stretch, breathe, walk. Reflect, journal, meditate. Create, read, write, think. Begin the day with intention, not reaction. Single-pointed focus. Work in blocks. Remove distractions. Treat each task as a duel. Be fully here. The training lens. View chores as training in patience. View arguments as training in calm. View boredom as training in clarity. The body as blade. Train physically every day. Strong body as sharp mind. A weak vessel cannot hold a strong spirit. Every day is the dojo. Every breath is practice. When this becomes your default view, you do not drift, you ascend. Musashi was not just a solitary fighter. He was a leader of self, of thought, and of influence. His self-mastery radiated into everything he touched, whether it was a battlefield, a scroll, or a student. You cannot master others until you master yourself. Self-mastery and leadership. People don't follow titles. They follow energy. Musashi never ordered others. He embodied what they sought. Modern application lead with discipline, example, and stillness. The best leaders are not loud. They are anchored. Self-mastery and love. Musashi loved deeply but without dependence. His relationships were built on mutual respect, not need. Modern application, love others without losing yourself. You cannot pour from an empty soul. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means strength without clinging. Self-mastery and legacy. Musashi didn't build armies. He built a philosophy that outlived him. His words, not his victories, made him immortal. Modern application. What are you building that will outlast you? A business, a philosophy, a child who carries truth. Legacy is not a monument. It's a vibration. Live in a way that echoes long after you're gone. In the end, Musashi laid down his sword. He entered the cave. He wrote his final lessons. And then he died not as a warrior, but as a master of the self. No duel ever mattered more than the duel within. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. That is the final truth of the way. The journey of mastery summarized: begin before you're ready. Train relentlessly, not for outcome, but for alignment. Strip away distraction. Build stillness. Embrace discomfort. Lead yourself. Master thought, emotion, and desire. Let every action be a step toward higher presence. Die empty. Leave a legacy of fire and form. Ask yourself, where am I hesitating? Where have I stopped training? Who do I want to become if I had no fear? Final words. You will not become Musashi. You don't need to. But you must become the Musashi of your own life, undefeated, not because you avoided failure, but because you never surrendered to yourself. The sword is a metaphor. The real weapon is your will. The battlefield is your day. The enemy is within. And the way is in training.